This video is going to demonstrate two probability rules, multiplication rule 1 and multiplication rule 2. Multiplication rule 1 is for independent events. Events that are independent are events that when one happens, they do not affect the probability of the other one happening. So here's an example. It says 35% of adults who own cell phones use them to send text messages. And we're going to choose two owners of cell phones randomly, and we want to know what's the probability that they both use their phones to send text messages. When you hear the word both, they're really asking an and question. It's for number one, person number one, and person number two using their cell phones to send text messages. So we would use multiplication rule 1 because a person is independent of somebody else using text messages. So we would say, what's the chance person number 1 and then person number 2 uses their phone to send text messages? And the way we would do this is just multiply the individual probabilities together. So we just multiply 0.35 times 0.35. I'm going to do this quick on my calculator. I'm getting 0.1225. So just about 12% chance that person number 1 and person number 2 would both use their phone to send text messages if they were independent of each other. The second rule is multiplication rule 2, and it's for dependent events. Dependent events means that when one event happens, it makes the second one more or less likely to happen. It affects the probability of the other one happening. So when one event occurs, it affects the probability of the other one. You'll notice that this rule changed a little bit from multiplication rule 1 because this second probability is no longer just the probability of B. The way that we read this is the probability of B given, that line is read as given, A has occurred. So there's a new probability of B given A has occurred because these events are dependent on each other. So here's an example of this. It says in a recent survey, 15% of people said they plan to buy a new sofa in the next year. And then it says of those people, so they're just talking about these 15%, of those people who plan to buy a new sofa, 8% say they will also buy a new chair. So we're going to randomly select a person, and we want to know what's the probability that they will buy a sofa and a chair. So we're still asking an and question, but we're going to take the probability of buying a sofa, and then if they buy a sofa, we know that 8% of those people buy a chair. And so this probability right here, the probability of buying a chair given you bought the sofa, is 8%. We're going to be taking the 0.15 times the 0.08, and that will give us the answer to this. So it's going to be 0.15 times 0.08. The 0.08 is what we call a conditional probability. It's the probability that something has occurred. And this is 0.012, so right around a 1% chance of the probability they will buy a sofa and a chair.